If you were the little adult in your household and find yourself feeling more responsible for everyone's happiness than your own, then you're going to want to pull up a chair because in today's episode of The Hidden Pages, we're discussing the parentified child, from one parentified child to the other. So today's podcast, the goal is to make space for the parentified children to feel seen and also to recognize and unlearn some of those hidden bad patterns that don't serve us anymore as adults. And to do that, let's just start by discussing what the little adult syndrome is. So, I'm going to share a story from my life, and maybe you can relate. I remember that my parents were struggling in their marriage, and they decided that my mom was going to travel with my dad. And so, to do that, so that they weren't apart for so long because he traveled so much, they left me and my siblings, with my grandmother, which doesn't sound bad, but taking into account that she was partly deaf, went to bed at 7 every day, so we did whatever we wanted past that time, and didn't speak English and couldn't drive. I was the only viable adult at the house. So grocery pickups from school and sports because my siblings didn't ride the bus as long as I did. And I wasn't allowed to do sports because who was going to pick up the children? Happened to me, but it all felt okay because, I felt like my parents trusted me. I felt important. I was the little adult in the house, the one we can always count on. And looking back, obviously, it was dysfunctional, but I felt special at the time. So, long story short, the divorce, it was inevitable anyways. And they sat me down to help them divide their assets. And mind you, I studied apparel design, not being a lawyer. And they had me sit down because I had to mediate between them because they felt like I was the only one who could sit between them. So, what comes with that little adult syndrome or the hidden struggles of that is that we have a hard time asking for help. We are always fine. And that, we have a hard time saying no, especially because of this dysfunctionality we're just so used to. How does this impact us now as adults? Well, relationship red flags are kind of things that go over our heads sometimes because we're so used to dysfunctionality that anything that looks a little better than the dysfunctional that we saw at home is like great. And because we're always fine, we tried to not share with a lot of people that we're struggling or what our red flags that we are seeing are because, we just don't want to be a burden or bother anyone with our issues. And that means that we also don't allow space for people who are in our corner to help us out. Another thing that we struggle with is saying no. And boy, have I had to learn how to do this. And this is like a master skill that we should all have is learning how to say no. If it doesn't make you happy, now, obviously, there's cases of emergency. I know that. But like, if this is something that someone's asking of you, it's not an emergency. It's not life or death. And it's not something you actually want to do, then say no. And you might lose a lot of people that are used to you being this I can't say no person, but you probably don't want them in your life anyways. As we get out of this dysfunctionality of being the parentified child, you're going to lose people anyways because those people are just used to you being that person who never needs and that person who's always there for their needs. You don't want them in your life anyways. And then self-care is one of those other things that we struggle with because, everyone's needs are more important than yours. And honestly, we really need to learn a little more self-care. The other part that we struggle with is identifying who the hell we are because we've conformed ourselves in so many ways to be that little adult or to be that person they all can count on that we've suppressed who we really are, what we really want, and all those needs so that we can make space for everyone else's needs that we have lost in the process. What really brings us joy. So how can we repair slowly all these things that we struggle with? The main one I think would be just getting to know who you are and what you really like, so that when you say no, it's based off of what you really like. And so I'm gonna tell you a little story of how like intense this can be, that it goes down all the way to like how you dress. Don't judge me. But I did MDMA for therapy, and I had a therapist sit with me, and I'm going to try to play a clip of this at the end. Because I recorded just the audio of it. But I remember in this session, we were discussing all the things that I am and I'm not, and what things feel like they were projected onto me and things like that. And I remember figuring out that like I bought clothes sometimes just to feel more feminine, because I was told that I was not very feminine because of the way I dressed. And so I would find myself hating my clothes on days that I just wanted to be myself. I didn't know that at the time, obviously, but I was like almost I had polar opposites in my closet, and that it never felt like it was one person's closet. It just felt like, but it was the two fighting sides of who I wanted to be, right? It was like the real me and like what people told me I should be. And so in this session, mind you, I'm under the influence of drugs. I remember having this moment where I was telling my therapist, I like to dress like a hobo sometimes. I just like to dress like Adam Sandler. And he has money, and he doesn't have to dress a certain way to like project that he has money. And I'm like, I don't have to dress a certain way to project that I am a woman, you know? And I remember in that moment I was like, sometimes I just feel like dressing like a hobo, and sometimes I feel like being a pretty hobo, so I'll put mascara on and still put my clothes on that I want to wear. And I think I should be able to do that. And it went something like that, but either way, I remember just feeling like I had let others determine even the clothes I was wearing. And mind you, this wasn't that long ago. As an adult, I'm still starting to like piece together who I truly am, aside from all those expectations and things that people put on me. To say that, while we're working slowly on like repairing these things, I would say start trying to dive into those little things that bring you joy, or that you recall that you wanted to do, even if they feel stupid, or like you're too old for this, and you're never too old for anything, by the way. Or that's like a dead thing of mine that I've never picked up again, because one of those things that I started dabbling into for the sole purpose of finding myself was drawing. I had stopped drawing for a long time, and I have my sketchbook right in front of me. Just a little embarrassing to like share, but like I started drawing little sketches, little tiny sketches, just drawing little things, random things, and it brought me a little joy to just, I don't know, sketch without any expectation. I'm really happy I did, because I realized that like art was a big part of me that I probably just let go of because it wasn't that important, or maybe people just didn't expect me to do anything with it. So I didn't expect myself to do anything with it. And we'll see where it goes. But it was a really nice time I had, like self-discovering my artistic side, maybe. The other thing that you can do while you are learning how to repair slowly is making time for self-care, because self-care is not really on our radar whenever we're parentified children. You have to like make time for little things. And I'm not talking about taking a full spa day if you can't. If you can, do it. But if you can't, I get it. So it just starts with little things. And I know there's guilt. There's a lot of guilt when it comes to dedicating time to yourself and dedicating time to self-care. But do it. Whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's reading a page out of a book, whether it's, you know, I'll tell you what my routine self care is, I guess, washing my face. And I know that might sound like it's not that big of a deal, but just getting to wash my face slowly with like a good product, it's like I feel like I took care of myself that day. And I'm not talking about full routine. I'm talking about wash and a moisturizer. That's all I have. And that's enough for me. at least. And I'm sure I'm going to keep adding to my list of self-care as I go, but making sure that you make time for yourself. And the no parents, because I'm a parent, okay? I know the parent guilt is real, and like making time for yourself is almost not doable. You have to do this not just for yourself. If if as a parentified kid, if you feel like you can't do it just for yourself, do it for your kid, because they learn by example. And so you don't want them to not know how to take care of themselves and have self-care and be that, like, let that be part of their routine. So you do it for yourself so your kids also learn. But yeah, and going back to like learning things to repair, learn how to say no. I'm telling you, that's like one of the life changing skills that I've learned. Learn how to say no. Find what you really like, and if it ain't in that circle and if it ain't an emergency, say no. And all those people that are going to fall left and right because they don't like who you are now, then they weren't meant to be in your life. And you probably shouldn't have them in there either, because they don't care about what your real no's are. And there's some boundary issues there that we can talk about later. So after every episode, I want to leave you with a challenge for the week so that we start implementing these things that we're learning on here. And so this 1 week's challenge is the minute self-care. Find 1 minute a day, or how many minutes you can find in your day, to self-care, to do one thing that you want or need for self-care. Whether it's, like I said, reading a book or writing or drawing or washing your face. Take just a few minutes out of your day every day for a week just to care for yourself. And that's my challenge for you. And I know this sounds like either too much or too little, but like, I promise you, dedicating time to yourself is where we start finding who we really are and unlearning some of these parentified traits that we as parentified children have learned. For this week, I just want you to know that you're not alone, and unlearning old patterns can be really hard. So be very graceful with yourself. Love yourself through this process. You're not alone. And you've been taking care of everyone for so long. This week is about starting to gently work on taking care of yourself. Till the next episode.
Good.
I like myself. I love myself, actually.
Good.
There's days that I don't like things about myself and my body, but especially the changes from birth.
Yeah.
But like, I love myself how I am.
Good. So you should just be you.
Yeah, I do love myself. I'm very sure of who I am now. And yes, I dress like a hobo sometimes.
But you
and
can.
I like it.
It feels good.
It feels comforting.
Mm-hmm.
In some sense, it's almost like a you to everyone else.
It's like, I'll do what I want.
Oh, you want me to dress in tight clothes or something to show my body? I don't want to. I like to feel like I dress like Adam Sandler. And there's days I clean up and I love feeling pretty.
Yeah.
And there's days, even if I dress like a hobo, I put mascara on. Yeah. It is. I put blush on.
Okay.
Because I want to be a pretty hobo.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging out with me on the Hidden Pages. If today's episode hit home for you, don't forget to subscribe or leave a review and share it with your friends who might need it too. Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode.